Hello all and welcome to another video in the music theory intro course. This is your instructor Cody Wyman back with another video. In this video we're going to be talking about fourths. Now we've been discussing intervals this whole entire section. The first intro video in the interval section was about unisons and seconds, which unisons is the same note played side by side. Seconds are one note next to the note after it, right after it. There could either be major seconds, which are actually less dissonant, or there could be minor seconds, which could be closer together, which could be more dissonant. Minor seconds are the closest intervals next to unisons that we have. And in the previous video, we discussed thirds. Now, if you didn't catch that video, please be sure to go back and watch it. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the Q&A. Thirds were the sweet-sounding interval that intertwined with happiness for the major thirds, sadness, darkness, mourning for the minor thirds. And major thirds are usually two steps away from one another. Each note is 2 steps away from one another, and the minor step is actually closer. The minor third is actually closer together than the 2 steps. It's actually 1.5. So the thirds are sweet sounding intervals that could either be bright or dark, major or minor. So now that we have that short little review and recap out of the way, let's go to fourths. Now, fourths, on the other hand, are not major or minor. There are only 2 types of fourths. The first one is the perfect fourth, or you would call it the P4, or perfect fourth as it normally is called. As here, perfect fourths. Why they are called perfect is because there's no dissonance between them. There's no friction between them. They're wide open. They're broad sounding. A lot of times you hear a lot of medieval music that has perfect fourths and perfect fifths in it, but for this case, perfect fourths is a good example. And normally you would have these examples. These are just a few examples of a perfect fourth, what it sounds like. So let me play that real quick. So just in case you didn't hear that, I'm going to stick a repeat on this, and we're going to do it twice now. And these intervals are usually perfect. They're perfectly shaped 4 steps apart from the note that they start on. So if you start on C, the perfect fourth down from C would be G. Or the perfect fourth up from E would be A. You would count E, F, G, A, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how you would count that. 1, 2, 3, 4 notes above, you'd get your fourth. That's usually why they're called fourths. And remember, when we talked in the intro to interval video about when I start saying, 1, 2, 3, 4, or I start counting stuff up, what I'm doing is I'm referring to, in scale-wise motion, what these notes would be numbered as. So if you ever get confused, just remember that. When I say it's 4 counts away, or 4 numbers away from the starting note to the ending note, that just means in the 4th degree of the E scale you have A, for example. All right, so I'm going to play these again one more time with the repeat once it comes in. Those are 2 perfect fourths side by side, one going up, the contours going up, And the other one, the contour is going down. The contour is basically just the direction of the interval. So those are two perfect fourths side by side. Now the other type of fourth that we often see in later classical and romantic era music is the augmented fourth, which is basically called the tritone. It is also called a diminished fifth, but we'll get into that. It all has to do with spelling, and I'll get into that in the fifths video that I'm going to do. But the augmented fourth is usually slightly more elongated than the perfect fourth. It's got maybe a half step more in distance than the perfect fourth does. For example, the perfect fourth is a straight open 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, normally that's 2 or 2.5 steps away from the home note that you start with to the fourth that you're wanting to get to. But in this case, what happens is that fourth becomes sharped, in this case from A to D sharp as a tritone or an augmented fourth, because the fourth is actually bent upwards. And so that's why they get that augmented interval as a augmented fourth, is they sharp the interval normally if it's going up. So that's why you get those things called augmented fourths. You would usually have from A to D be a perfect fourth, but since it's sharped, the D is sharped, it automatically goes up a half step, which would mean, in terms of spelling, it's still a D, but it's sharped. And that would mean that it's an augmented fourth, which is kind of fudged a little bit. So that is basically what perfect fourths and augmented fourths are. In the next video, we will be talking about fifths, perfect and diminished. And so if you have any questions, please feel free to consult the Q&A, and I'll see you in the next video.